Welcome to the Super Data Science Podcast. My name is Kirill Eremenko, data science coach and lifestyle entrepreneur. And each week we bring you inspiring people and ideas to help you build your successful career in data science. Thanks for being here today, and now let's make the complex simple. This episode is brought to you by DataScienceGo, which is our very own data science conference. DataScienceGo is the event where once a year we bring the data science community together, and we also bring very empowering, impactful speakers. So check this out. This year we are bringing you speakers from IBM, Google, Salesforce, Amazon, Atlassian, RStudio, Amazon Alexa, Facebook, and more. We actually have 30 plus speakers already confirmed and coming this year, and ranging from all different roles and backgrounds, from analysts to senior data scientists, from engineers to founders and directors. And the beauty of all of this is that you get to interact with them, you get to see them live, you get to hear them talk, and then come up to them and ask them questions and connect with them, meet each other. For example, last year we had people from over 23 countries fly to DataScienceGo, just to give you a bit of a perspective. This year, DataScienceGo is happening on the weekend of 27th, 28th, and 29th of September. We're expecting 600 to 800 attendees, so there will be plenty of networking opportunities. So if you haven't secured your ticket yet, head on over to www.datasciencego.com right now and secure your ticket ASAP. That's datasciencego.com, and I'll see you there. Welcome back to the Super Data Science Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Super excited to have you on the show today, because for the third time round, I have my dear friend, AI influencer and mentor, Ben Taylor, on the show. It was super cool to catch up with Ben. In fact, it was funny that we did this episode as a video, and the previous episode we did as a video as well, which was 2 years ago. And we had a look at the previous episode in video, and we could see how in 2 years we've gotten older. So we had a bit of a laugh about that, how what AI or like what running a tech startup actually does to you and how it ages you, and it was quite insane. So if you want to find the video episodes, if you would like to watch that, you can find it at superdatascience.com/289. That's www.superdatascience.com/289. You can find it there, and we actually will add a comparison of before and after how we looked. And in this episode, you will find tons of value. I'm so excited for you to hear it. So here's a couple of things that you'll find inside. You will find out what Ben has been up to in the past 2 years since you've heard from him last, unless of course you've seen him in one of his appearances in international keynotes. Then you will also find quite some very cool concepts about artificial intelligence, such as active adverse impact mitigation and what that means and how that can help train on your data set without bias. Then we talked about AI ethics. We talked a lot about deepfakes. We talked about Ben's current side project, passion project. He's building an artificial intelligence that plays Call of Duty, and he will actually demonstrate this at DataScienceGo this year at the end of September. And in this podcast, he gave us a preview of how he's doing it. Such a crazy project that he's working on. Very excited to hear that. And next, we talked about residual technology. We also talked about AI startups and how investors think about them, and many more topics. So this podcast is jam-packed with value. And without any further ado, I bring to you my dear friend, Ben Taylor. Welcome to the Super Data Science Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Super excited to have you on the show. Today, we've got a dear friend of mine, a super special guest returning for the third time around, Ben Taylor. Ben, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. And we were talking about that we're both old men now. So, looking back 3 years ago, we looked like little kids, and now we've got, some gray coming in, and
yeah, man. I'm glad we're doing this.
lines in our faces.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing this as a video because the last one we did as a video was, well, our previous podcast was like 2 years ago, and we just looked at it. And so like I'll ask our video editors to like right now, like bam, like
Yeah.
put before
Yeah.
after.
I'll do a, look at all this. Every hair is a mistake, or every white hair is a mistake. And I've been able to collect a lot of them over the years. So yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's insane. So what have you been up to so that you have so many mistakes on your face?
Yeah. So one of the interesting things doing a startup, my co-founder David says a startup is a series of mistakes, but hopefully in the right direction. And that's very true. I think sometimes you can beat yourself up about 2020 hindsight. We could have done this better. We could have done this contract this way. We could have asked for this pricing. We could have not done this or that. And that can be really discouraging. So the important thing is you learn from your mistakes quickly and you try not to repeat them. And you try to find themes or patterns or strengths or weaknesses that kind of give you momentum and help you grow. So we've learned a lot in the last 3 years talking to enterprise for AI because there's so much hype in AI. Everyone wants it. It's actually not very hard to get an executive meeting about AI. But the problem is it's all blue sky. It's not very actionable, and they don't really understand what it is or how it would be useful. And you having an AI background, you feel like you're just kind of grasping at straws, and ideally you're looking for pain. Like we're looking for this specific problem, like put a fence around it and it's worth tens of millions of dollars. Like that's what we're looking for. Because then everyone's aligned that, okay, solve this problem within this time frame, and this is a great relationship for both of us. But if it's not nailed down to some business objective, then a lot of times it can be a waste of time. So we've learned a lot of important lessons, talking with a lot of different companies, a lot of different industries, and we've really focused lately in insurance and in assessments. That's kind of those are our sweet spot verticals right now.
Insurance and assessments.
Yeah. So video and audio assessments. So this would be something like, so I worked at HireVue and we did video assessments for pre-hire. This could be something like assessing English as a second language, or remote proctoring, or predicting some type of behavior or competency. But remote proctoring, there's a lot of people that need it. So this is where you're taking an exam and you decide to cheat during the exam. And right now, the only way to catch you is to have humans watch. You have to watch all the video, and these exams can be very long. And with AI, there's an opportunity to catch these events, which can, save time. And then in insurance, we do loss prediction. So we're predicting loss on a property. So should you insure this property? Yes or no, based on the structured data and the unstructured data. So images and text. So we build these holistic models to predict that. And that's a fun problem because the numbers are big.
Can't imagine.
You move the needle this much and it's worth a really big number, which those are the types of problems you want to work on.
That's crazy. And it feels like when you're done, the completion rates at universities, because cheating will no longer be available, like drop by 50%.
Hopefully. We're just trying to make everyone more honest, I guess. AI. Some people don't like it, but especially coming from the HireVue side, using AI to do pre-hire assessments, there have been some very negative reactions from that in social media, where people feel like it's Black Mirror.
Yeah. It is. I have a friend who went through that recently, and she's like, I was like preparing, I was there, I was going to start talking. And then and I log in and there's nobody to talk to. And then they give you these questions, you have to answer them, and it's all recorded and then analyzed by AI. But she didn't know. She was like, I didn't know what was happening. I think they recorded it because maybe they'd look at it later. I'm like, no. I know, Ben told me all about it. Like nobody, this is going to be an AI assessing the whole thing. And then this is how it's going to work. And she's like, wow, not expecting that at all.
Yeah. So I'm biased because I come from that side of things where I see a lot of the good it can do, where it can help eliminate bias. Because you have racism, sexism, and age bias, and you can get ahead of it. So you can actually protect against it and really try to train models based on competencies needed for the job.
But that's only if your data doesn't have bias, right?
No. So for most people, so what you said for most people is true.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a racist training set and you train a resume model, you're going to get a racist model.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the point I want to make really clear to your listeners is you are guaranteed to transfer bias with traditional machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using bag of words or like some type of fancy neural net to build a model for video or audio or text.
Supervised learning, basically.
Yeah, supervised learning, you will transfer the bias right across.
Mm-hmm.
There's a special type of supervised learning where you do active adverse impact mitigation. So what you're doing is you are rewarding features that predict performance, mm-hmm. and you are poisoning or killing features that predict race or predict mm-hmm. age. So it's actually not a complicated topic, and the easiest way I can explain it is imagine a resume. If I just throw resumes into a machine, and if the last name Garcia is seen as having any type of lift, it would also have lift with predicting race, because that's a last name like that can be very racial. So that would automatically be thrown out. You and I might come up with that idea and say, oh yeah, don't look at name because it can be tied to race, but AI can automatically figure out that if I'm trying to predict Black or Hispanic or white or Asian, this name is interesting, and that feature becomes eliminated automatically.
Automatically. So you don't have to tell it which features to.
Yeah. So that's kind of the process. You're not just building one model. You might be building 5 models simultaneously, and they're all competing for features. And what we find is if you take that approach, you can actually train a racist model and ship a model that is within the guidelines. So it still was able to get lift on performance, but the bias transfer was greatly reduced. So there's ways to go about doing it.
Wow, very interesting. You just need to indicate what things the model is not allowed to discriminate on, like age, gender, race. Yeah. You just need to specify those.
So one of the things I tell people is if you can predict it, you can protect it. Because if you can't measure it, then how are you going to protect against it? So if there's a genetic bias or if there's something else going on, how are you going to protect against it? And we've actually found some really fascinating things that aren't protected right now. And so beauty, there's a really strong beauty bias. So if you're a woman or a man, and if you're more attractive, you will do better in the hiring process. And in HireVue, by the way, they don't use that. That's not used to give someone an advantage. And they've actually done some internal studies, and they've shown that there's no correlation internally to their AI metrics around something like attractiveness. But on the human side, there is. There's some very, very strong correlations. Some of the strongest correlations we've seen are tied to attractiveness, which it's interesting, but it's also kind of sad.
But then how would you measure attractiveness to specify to the AI that it needs to, like as you said, poison those features that predicted?
So we already have an attractiveness model. So speaking about our company, we have one, and attractiveness is a really fun topic because you hear people say beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And now when we're talking from the AI's perspective, beauty is in the eye of the training set. So if you were trying to put me into a corner on a hot seat by saying, Ben, can you tell me what the AI thinks what I would think is attractive? Technically, the answer is no. I can't tell you that because I would have to build a training set based on you. But when it comes to LA, Chicago, East Coast, West Coast, South Korea, Brazil, yes, AI can tell you, because that's trained on lots of humans that have done ratings in those areas. And so when it comes to predicting regional average behavior from humans, then yes, AI can predict. But beauty's, I can't remember if we talked about this on a previous podcast, but this was an evolution, because when we trained the first beauty model, we found out that it was rewarding sexualized beauty. It would actually reward women who were lingerie models, or they were dressed, because it wasn't focusing on the face. It was a whole body shot. And when we noticed that, we thought, well, that's not really what we intended. And so then we did face crop. And the second time around, the number one was, so we have 1 million images that we're testing on. These images are celebrities. They've never been seen before. They're not part of the training set. So this is our sanity check. that we're ranking this data set to see how well we're doing. In the second version, the number one pick won Miss World. So out of 13,000, so it's 1 million photos, 13,000 unique individuals, the number one pick won Miss World, which is like, oh, well, that's not random. Like,
so
it's
the AI picked the lady that won Miss World.
Yeah. So like, what are the chances that I stick my hand into a bowl and out of 13,000 people, I pull out a Miss World contestant? It's not 1 in 13,000, but it's probably like 5 in 13. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But we noticed in our top 10, the racial differences were they seemed to be oversampling on certain minorities. And what we saw when we looked at the racial distributions is they were very different. So you had some races that were skewed high, some races that were skewed low. And so the current version that we have is we do race norming, where the beauty score we're predicting doesn't have any racial differences. And some people disagree with that, but I'm not going to allow a whole race of people to be scored low. Yeah. Like, just because someone might argue with me on why that should be okay, I'm not going to allow that to happen. So, but it is a controversial model, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, interesting. Like, that's a whole AI and ethics space, and it's really cool to see that, you know, people like you are really taking that into account in developing the models that you're creating. Yeah,
I've had some fun conversations with some of the AI ethics journalists where I see myself as a technophile, where I love inventing things, and hopefully I don't invent anything for bad, but maybe this will come into the discussion with deepfakes and some other stuff we're going to talk about later on the podcast. But there is a chance that I might make it easier for certain people to do things just based on having a discussion or bringing something up or suggesting something that would make it more difficult to catch deepfakes. And whether or not I create that technology or someone else does, having the conversation, it's kind of a moving goalpost. Because the more you talk about ways to protect against deepfakes, the better they get.
Yeah.
So like, and that's true with any type of AI that you're using to catch the bad guys. The more you talk about it and the more the researchers kind of look into it, the better it gets. Whether it's,
they all have access to the same data anyway, the same algorithms.
Yeah, same algorithms. They understand the incentives. If I'm trying to record your podcasts and fake your voice for some bank authentication through your voice, that's 10 years ago, that would have been science fiction. Today, that's becoming easier and easier and easier to pull something like that off. And yeah,
that's crazy. Speaking of deepfakes, tell us a bit about that, because ultimately, if you think about it, this could be deepfakes talking to each other. We could not be here at all.
Yeah. So I'm actually surfing in Costa Rica, and I have outsourced this podcast to someone in the Philippines, and they're doing a live deepfakes with you right now in live. So it's very impressive.
Yeah,
they're just reading from a script of
and imagine the listeners who are like just listening to the audio, not the video version. Like, it could be even just two AIs like generating natural language on the fly, like having a chat to each other.
Yeah. So what's the most likely thing that I should respond to what you just said? Or like, when's the laugh track? When does the laugh track make sense? So I can't remember because there's a lot of buzz right now around deepfakes where people, they want regulation. They want us to figure out how to detect them and stop them from happening. And I feel like that's the wrong conversation to be having. We actually just have to get to the end of the story. And the end of the story is there's no way to detect a deepfake. Like today, there is. I feel like if there was a very high profile case where there were huge consequences for determining if this deepfake was real or not, there's some pretty detailed ways that, you know, people like us could, you know, you or I could figure it out very quickly that this is fake. But and I'll bring up some specific things you could do, but those things are eroding away. Where 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I would argue it would be extremely hard for an AI expert to convince another AI expert that this is a deep fake or it's not. Today, there's an argument to be made, but in the future there will be. So let's just finish the story and figure out what we're going to do when we can. we don't know it's real. And people talk about going back to blockchain where you authenticate the source. So if I send a video of you doing something inappropriate, if you don't trust the source, you don't trust the video, it's not newsworthy, it should not be shared. But if I'm a news reporter, you know me, and I'm authenticated to you, and you're able to confirm that there wasn't some type of intercept, that this is me giving you a video, then that's kind of what we have to go to, is source authentication. But
interesting. So blockchain could play a big role in that.
It could play a big role, and I think it'll kind of change the way we do media, because right now for local media, and I think I mentioned this too, I personally actually have a national media mention of me coming from a fake social profile. So it wasn't Ben Taylor. It was my fake social profile mentioned on USA Today during the Ashley Madison crap, and they were pissed when they found out. But right now, there's not a lot of due diligence on sources, because they're just trying to grab whatever's out there in social media, interesting videos and different things, and that's going to go away, where everyone has to be authenticated, and you have to know the source, and you have to have confirmation.
Yeah. Wow. Important. The fastest way I can tell a deepfake, for now, they are getting better, is you look at the teeth. Usually, like, have a third tooth in the middle. You know, that's or the earrings. Like, if like you see a face. The really cool website to test these things on is thispersondoesnotexist.com. You just like refresh it, generates a new image every time. And like earrings, usually, like things that are supposed to be symmetrical sometimes aren't, and then you can like
and we see, as the generations of this technology gets better, those issues start going away. So the symmetry and different things are being improved. I was actually taking a nap a month or two ago, and I woke up from the nap, and when I woke up, I thought, holy cow, I know how to catch a deep fake. I know how to catch the world's best deep fake. And so when I say the world's best deep fake, I mean, let's say someone in Israel or Russia or the US spent $10 million to create one deep fake. And you and I are staring at it, and we're watching it over and over and over again, and it's high resolution. We're staring at it, and as humans, we can't see anything wrong. We can't see any artifacts. And we might actually get to a point where we kind of have to give in and say, we don't see anything wrong with this. We think it's real. But the funny thing is, mentioning this, as soon as you mention something, it's no longer a thing. But I'm fine mentioning it, because someone else will mention it. So the fascinating thing with the deep fake is it doesn't have a pulse. It doesn't have, there's no heart rate.
Okay, wow.
And so if they're fair skinned, you can amplify the heart rate in the temporal data in the video, and you can see their heart rate in their face. And for a big effort, I would argue that would have been a detail they may have missed. Where I have a deep fake of you right now, it's incredible. It looks real. There's no visual artifacts, but they forgot to give you a heart rate.
That's crazy. I love that. I was looking at, there's like an app now that you can point it at a video, and it will emphasize any kind of heartbeat. Like it's for baby monitors. You know that one, to see that the baby is breathing. So it expands.
So it's exactly. So it's that technology. So so to make the AI community feel better, I'm pretty slammed right now just with startup and work, but I love fun marketing pieces. So to make the AI community feel better, I wanted to show the first deep fake with a heartbeat. I'm too busy, and I've got other things in the queue, but I would love to say, hey, everyone, this is a problem, and I fixed it for you. And now there's a deep fake with a heartbeat. And then the next step would be, you would actually become very opinionated on the specific heartbeat signature. Is this Ben Taylor's heartbeat?
No.
Or is this a modified? Like, you would actually kind of have to go to that level to like. So what you see is the argument starts disappearing. So you and I talk heartbeat, and we say that's a great thing. And
now all the dark web is already onto the heartbeat thing.
Now you see it's kind of like So
it's like you say, it's like a race. Like before, they could have used it in a major case where, you know, like a lot of fraud was committed. But now that it's out there, that you said it on a podcast, now it's no one, you can't use that as a way.
Well, I love for some people to comment and get mad and say, I wish you had just told each other that privately. And and not publicly, because now someone on the dark web can have those ambitions. But part of me just wants to get to the end of the story that you don't trust anything.
Yeah.
And now it just has like, because this feels like a waste of time if you're trying to fight an intermediate step, like catching deepfakes in 2019, 2020, 2025. It's a lost battle. So why did we spend so much time when we could have just solved the bigger problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun stuff.
Interesting. Well, speaking of other things like you're busy on, like you're coming to DataScienceGo this year at the end of September, 27, 28, 29. And your presentation sounds like a lot of fun. Tell us about that. That's a crazy idea.
So so you have different passion projects, and sometimes they're spur of the moment where they're literally that morning or a few weeks, you'll think of something. And for an AI company, they can be good because they show thought leadership and you can kind of drive, some stuff in the AI community. But there's been a very selfish passion project of mine that I've obsessed about for years, and I did not think it was possible. And that was playing Call of Duty on the Xbox with AI in a live environment. So I don't mean a modified Xbox or like locally. I just want to be playing full auto live on the web against people where I have not asked their permission.
Rebel Ben.
Yeah, Rebel Ben. Like, I like to.
You like to push it. You like
if there's a ripple or a splash, I'd rather go for the splash because that's more entertaining. And so 2 or 3 years ago, I thought, man, like I really want to see this happen, and this is a very naive number. I'll just throw this number out. So I think Google DeepMind, they've spent over $1 million in R&D on, no more than that. They spent millions of dollars for like specific games. So they'll decide we're going to go tackle this game. They'll spend millions of dollars. And I was thinking for this, it would be maybe $5 million in talent and time to figure this out, because you have the Xbox. Yeah, for Call of Duty, because you have the Xbox drivers. It's not meant to play nice to do that, and you've got network protocols through USB that you have to override and intercept and take control of. And it's just a whole skill set that we don't have. Like AI researchers don't have that. And but for less than $2,000 hardware that I was able to cobble together, I was able to figure out a way. And so it's a really fun setup. So I had to buy a piece of hardware from France called a gimmicks adapter. It does like this man in the middle attack where it tricks the Xbox into thinking that you are an Xbox controller. And it does it by intercepting a real Xbox controller. So I have a real Xbox controller and I push the button. That goes into a Linux AI computer and that goes to the Xbox and it kind of does the handshake. And then once it does the handshake, then the Linux computer takes over.
Oh, wow.
From the Xbox, it doesn't know. It has no idea. It's just, I'm getting these controls from this controller. And then for the video, we have the video coming out of the Xbox and it goes into an HDMI capture card on the AI computer. So the AI computer sees full 1080p. We were running at 60 frames per second for a while, but that was a little hard for the capture card, but still 30 frames per second. That's faster than most humans can react, especially with the latency. So the AI computer sees everything and it has access. So it's been a really fun project. So the thing we started with is you always want to train from a good baseline, because you want to get all this training data from gameplay. So you have stuff to work with, to study, and I'm not good enough to be the human. And so I put some social media fillers out for good humans to come and play on this special modified system. And you would be amazed how many mothers I had on Facebook that were bragging about their son's kill streaks. So I had mothers saying, my son has killed 24 people in a row. And another mother is like, my son's killed 35 people in a row. And it was so funny because you can imagine being a young, like 12-year-old kid and your mom's calling from the other room. How many people have you killed in a row on Call of Duty? And you're like, oh, she actually cares about what I do all day. Like I'm sure this is like the first time that's like, oh, this is. So I had a bunch of people coming over to my house and trying out, and I even had some really young kids. I think the youngest was 12. which is really funny because they're coming over with their really proud parents and they're playing on the system. But I found this professional gamer. I think his name is Caden. He was next level. Like, I'm still shaking my head just watching him play. He created 3,000 kill events. By kill events, it's not people killed. It's like fight sequences that were saved and pushed to the cloud. And he's killing people so well. So the funny thing is, he shows up to the house. We have the special system set up. He needs to use his monitor. He's not willing to use our monitor. He has like a special monitor that sits right in front of his face. So we reset it up so it's using his monitor. And then he asks if it's okay if he uses gamer goo. And the answer is yes. Like whatever he asks, the answer is yes.
Gamer goo?
Exactly. I don't know. So he pulls out, it looks like lotion and it says gamer goo. And he squirts it on his hands and it makes his hands like grippier.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's in my house playing for 4 hours, and he's got all these data scientists and like physicists and AI people behind him commenting. So they're not gamers. They're like commenting on like,
what are you doing, Ben? What is your life, man?
No, we recorded some of this. Actually, I'll send you a video element. Maybe you could even like have
send it. We'll put it in.
It shows him playing with all of this crazy stuff flying through the computers. And so he's created an incredible data set to study and learn from. And there's the thing you start to realize pretty quickly is humans, they can't win. They really can't win because there's, so maybe a real world example. Let's say there's a gunfight in the future. You're in a bar, droids come in, they start shooting up the place with machine guns. And you do too, because it's Terminator days. You got your machine gun. Everyone's shooting. And if I run in and I yell, stop, and everyone stops, and I ask you to count your bullets, you have no idea how many bullets you have. You have no idea. Like you honestly have no idea. Maybe you think you're almost out of your clip. You don't know. If I ask AI knows exactly how many bullets it has, but it also knows how many bullets you have and how many bullets your partner has, because it's counting. It counts everything. So when it comes to like accounting, it's the world's best accountant in that type of scenario. And so for a very specific example, every muzzle flash where the bullet leaves the gun in the game, the AI is capturing all of that in real time with perfect accuracy, and it's counting bullets and it's counting its health, and it's like, so it just has it has a faster time to react, and it has the amount of data it can consume is just unbelievable. It creates over a terabyte of data every hour. Yeah, you don't think about it because you're just playing the Xbox.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane. And so, like, what were the results? Did you manage to train the AI to play like Caden?
So with these models, it's a huge project because I can't remember. So Google said they had 18 agents working together to play their StarCraft, and that's kind of how you think of it. You don't train one AI, you train all of these submodels. And so we have just a bunch of submodels that have been trained where they hit really high accuracies, and then they all work together on one decoder and encoder. So we're still working through it. We have a lot of things that are really exciting where AI is, essentially pulling the trigger. Like AI wants to shoot you. Yeah. So there's different things. There's the gun movement. There's the actual physical movement. So the thing I'm pushing for is by DataScienceGo, we do have clips of, hey, look, that person died, that person died, that person died, and it's pretty good. And I think, and you'll see already from these submodels, their accuracy is unbelievable. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah. And so that's a real passion project of mine. And I do like to troll Microsoft. So I would love to have a Twitch feed with a live AI bot running, and Microsoft just has to watch in horror. And then you're like masking all the gamer tags where because they'll try to blacklist you. If they can see your gamer tag or they know who you are, they're going to try to kick you off the network. But if they can just watch on a lag, then it's they're just helpless. But part of me, no one else is willing to do a shooting game right now, and part of me actually wants to do it to raise awareness, because I want it to start a discussion that, look, this is actually pretty good. This is maybe a glimpse into autonomous warfare, and what do you guys think? Like, what does society think? Because if we're having these discussions 10 years from now, I think it's too late. Like, then you're having it based on a real world demonstration. Having it on a real world demonstration, I'd say it's too late.
Yeah, I agree. So, but one thing I don't understand in this scenario is that usually, for instance, Google, when they try to model a game or create an AI that creates a game, they use reinforcement learning. So they don't have any of this supervised training. Like, how come you guys needed the supervised data sets?
So the supervised data sets, it's really, really good to, well, first you have to study to figure out what the elements are that you need for gameplay. So like me telling you that muzzle flash and hit indicators were useful, I wouldn't know that unless we had hours and hours and hours of footage to review based on gameplay. And for the reinforced learning, so you can initialize on human gameplay, but the very next thing you want to do is you want to go to superhuman. You want to go to some cost metric. And so the thing that we're still hammering down is, what is that cost? And I think the cost is going to end up being the amount of lives you take per unit of your health. Because the good news is these are very short fight sequences. We're not talking about it. We're not talking about strategy minutes away. We're talking about, in the next 5 seconds, are you going to kill someone? And if you do, how much health did you have to give up to kill someone? And so so that would be the reinforced part, where then the AI is just rewarded, just plays, and every single fight sequence is essentially scored as part of the training set on you fought and you were killed. That's very, very bad. You should never be killed. Or you fought and you killed a few people, but you were hurt very badly doing it. And that just goes back into the training set. So those sequences and those outcomes become pretty objective. So basically, so the nice thing with something like a first-person shooter is the objective is even simpler. Something like StarCraft or these other games are much more complicated because you have long-term strategies that are very, very complicated. And so many different pathways that can evolve. Yeah, but just AI coming around the corner and there's 3 enemies, you have to kill all 3. That's not as complicated. Yeah. We did a simple one for Doom. Remember that game, Doom? Yeah. So Doom would train on random initialization. It just starts. You have like a navigation, and initially it's shooting at the sky, shooting at the wall, and then eventually it kills a monster. And so the problem with live gameplay on the Xbox is if you try to start with random initialization, the gameplay is too complicated. You're not gonna kill someone. But if you start with initialization trained on a professional player, the likelihood of you shooting someone and killing them is high. Okay. Like if someone walks in front of your gun, you're going to shoot them. Guaranteed, you're going to shoot them. And that's come from the human gameplay. Gotcha. So it's just like a combination of supervised at the start to get you up to speed, and then reinforcement learning to take you superhuman. Yeah. Gotcha. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but I really geek out about high performance computing. And so the thing I'm the most excited about this is just the high performance computing element. The number of models that have to run at 30 frames per second and keep up is very impressive. And that's something that I'm excited to show off at DataScienceGo. That look, because in my career, my favorite thing to do when it comes to AI research is I love to show someone something that is so unbelievable it's not believable, especially like where I'm accused of lying. So if it's, hey, these are my benchmarks, this is how many models I'm running at 30 frames per second on this hardware, I love to have numbers where there's someone in the audience that says, no, I don't believe that. That, like, for me, that's kind of icing on the cake, because then I can meet that person and say, nope, or I don't even have to meet them. I just like that. I like when people are... they don't believe me. Yeah, wow, that's very cool. And it's interesting that you said yourself like that challenge that by DataScienceGo have some of these things to show. That's really going to push you to get there. Well, and I've been showing this stuff off for a while. So I presented this at Amazon's Palo Alto office, and I presented it in Minneapolis. Like, we've been working on this for a while, and we made really good progress. But we're actually getting to the live gameplay elements that get really exciting, because there's actually some historical, people might not think they're that historical. I think they're pretty historical, where and the other wonderful thing about this is all recorded in full 1080p. Everything is recorded all the time. And so the very first autonomous kill on an Xbox against someone online without their permission will be recorded. And I will know their gamer tag. The world may not know their gamer tag. I will know their gamer tag. And that video can go on YouTube and just be shared to the world that, hey, this person was the very first person killed online with autonomous AI. And they had no idea. They're just coming around the corner and AI saw them and activated and shot them.
Yeah. Well, if anybody watching this sees Ben Taylor in their game,
I will. Yeah, I would mention my gamer tag, but that's probably.
But no, the Microsoft will take it down. Don't mention. Don't ruin the exercise. Wow, that's very cool. Very cool. But Ben, like our listeners might be getting a bit of a false kind of like. Perception of you that you're just like this gamer, crazy gamer who creates AI to dominate the online world of shooters. So your company, right, Zeph or Ziff, right? You are consulting. Is that correct? Because like I thought you were mostly.
We have a platform. So we have an auto ML platform. We specialize in image, audio, video, and text models, but a very specific kind. So the types of models we build that we do well are called holistic models, where it's structured data interacting with not just one image type, but multiple image types. So imagine predicting loss, and I've got images of roof, dwelling, satellite, Google Street View, structured, maybe text description. So those types of models, the industry is starting to catch up where they're starting to think that way. A couple of years ago, we felt like we were the only ones thinking about that way. We're seeing some open source projects like Ludwig from Uber, where they are starting to think about encoders and decoders. How do I take a hybrid or mixed data set and build these types of models? And so that's our specialty. We allow engineers to build those models. And so the Xbox model is actually showcasing how complicated some of these AI models can get in real life. And so this particular model is going to have north of 10 submodels or encoders working together to drive a final outcome, and we see that in industry too. So whether it's insurance, house price, assessment, so it does showcase some of our capabilities. The other thing I want to throw out there, so maybe just go with me for a second on a scenario. So let's say you're an investor or you're a VC. I'm going to pitch you right now. Got a good startup idea, and I say I need $5 million, and I'm going to go hire a team of PhD physicists, data scientists, and we're going to work for the next 2 years doing Xbox gaming, like with AI, and we're never going to make any revenue. We'll never make $1 of revenue, but in the next 2 years we will sell for $50 to $100 million. That scenario to someone who, when they see that for the first time, that sounds ridiculous. Like that, it sounds like, why would that ever work? Why would that ever produce any value that would be worth buying? And the thing we're noticing when you tackle a project like the Xbox, you actually get residual tech. You just get tech that comes along for the ride. You just get things that are invented. You didn't know you needed them, and suddenly you have them. And so some of the models and the throughput we have for these higher resolution video feeds they're kind of groundbreaking. But if we didn't have the passion piece, we wouldn't have discovered them. Like it's kind of crack cocaine for nerds. Like if you tell them you're going to do autonomous war on Call of Duty, how many nerds can you get rushing to your side if you can pay them market comp to work on that problem? Like it's, so but in the end, you have to pay the bills. Like you have to make money. You can't just. I don't have the swagger in the VC community to kind of swing that stick yet in my career, where I could say, "Hey, I need $20 million to goof off for 3 years."
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so this AutoML thing is a way for you to kind of like supplement your research.
Yeah. Projects. Yep.
What is the thing? What kind of AutoML do you offer? So any company can come sign up and start using the platform.
Specializing in insurance. So if there are insurance companies that want to predict loss on a property, so like a residential home, they're trying to decide, should I insure your home?
Yeah.
Right now, they have human underwriters that will go through that process. With our capabilities, we allow them to unlock the potential of the unstructured data, because it's very awkward and clumsy for these companies to try to do that internally. They really struggle with it. So we make that very easy. Their engineering team can build their own models on our platform. They don't need to know data science or AI or neural networks. We actually have a JSON schema where they can submit property records through our system, and then we take care of the model building and the automation for them. So those are the types of customers that we would be going after. And the good thing with insurance is there's a lot of them. There's a lot of insurance companies that care very much about loss prediction or price prediction.
Awesome. Okay, makes sense. So what's your exit strategy for this business?
Well, we've had acquisition options in the past. So there's always that scenario, I guess, assuming that the market keeps up that appetite. But with some of these insurance contracts, there's also an opportunity to just grow the business and become cash flow positive and, self-sustaining too. Because we are not VC backed right now, so we don't require an exit strategy today.
Okay.
But yeah, you never know what's going to happen in the next 12 months or 6 months.
Yeah, so. Or more Microsoft might come along and buy you. You stop destroying their Call of Duty products.
Yeah. It could be like ransom. Just if you don't buy us for $50 million, we will, play for another 24 hours and kill 1,000 people online.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. So Ben, I wanted to ask you another thing. So one of the best places, you present in many different conferences and people can meet you in many events, but one event is DataScienceGo. And for those who are listening to this and are still on the fence about coming to DataScienceGo this September, what would you say to them? Because you've been to 2 DataScienceGos now. Like I love you for this. You're like such a great supporter. You always come, you do an amazing speech. Everybody loves you. What has your experience been so far from 2017 to 2018? And what are you looking forward to in 2019? Yeah,
so I speak at a lot of conferences all over. I spoke at Dublin Tech Summit. I'm actually speaking in Madrid right before DataScienceGo, and we had to figure out the flight pattern where it works. It's going to work out. One of the things I really like about DataScienceGo is it's a really tight knit group of AI data science professionals and people trying to break into that space. And out of all the conferences I've presented to, I've never presented at a conference that has the energy and the excitement and kind of the nurturing that comes with the attendees that I see at this conference. Because a lot of other conferences, the audience is not that engaged. Honestly, there's if you had to measure excitement from the crowd, there really isn't any there. They're just kind of there. And DataScienceGo is completely different. I think last year, there's people cheering and you guys do a great job with the DJs and stuff, but people are cheering. Yeah. And actually, I think if you listen to my talk, there's people whooping and cheering during the talk. Yeah,
when you took that selfie, everybody was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. People are doing that, but just even little whoops and stuff in the background, just you say a statement that people see as truth or they agree with it, and you hear confirmations or whoops from the audience. And I've never been to an AI conference that does that, so it's a lot of fun for me.
That's really cool. Thank you for the words. Did you meet any interesting people last time?
Yeah. I met. I always have fun interacting with a lot of the other speakers like that. That's fun for me. I met some people there from Red Bull and SpaceX that I was able to follow up with and go on site to their locations. Wow. And I've kept in touch with a lot of people that aren't local. They're even international folks. I have really enjoyed staying in touch with them.
Okay.
So, so I've always enjoyed the contacts and that I see there and meet there. And I've had people already message me that are they're attendees that are coming back, and they're excited to reconnect and say hi, and that's fun. It starts to feel more like a high school reunion.
Yeah, that's really cool. We do have some people coming back for the third year round. It's really exciting to returning guests to the conference. Yeah.
And I so out of the other conferences, I would say I'll put in a few weeks of thought before the talk, but DataScienceGo, I think, for the second or third year in a row, like I definitely am thinking like 6 months before the talk.
Wow.
Like what do I want it to be? What's the wow factor? What's the messaging? What's the takeaway? And I get excited about that. Like I think it's important to have kind of the one talk that you get real jazzed about, and maybe you kind of get over your skis a little bit. You set a goal, or you set some expectation, and you've got, most of the year to kind of stew on it and hopefully motivate and deliver.
That's really cool. Yeah. A lot of speakers like just reuse the talk in many different conferences.
Yeah. And I don't do that at DataScienceGo. Like they're so one of my commitments to the people listening that will go to DataScienceGo this year, there will be things in my talk that I will be showing that no one has ever seen before, like ever. And they won't just be, look at this AI application. They will be benchmarks and numbers where like this is the reaction I want. They're just like, we see those numbers and we see what's done. How is it? Like that's kind of the icing. And I don't want to be like a mystique, or like I'm like magic, or I'm like withholding. Like it's a lot of work. It's really, really hard, and you have to do a lot of stuff to kind of plow through these milestones. And I'll talk a lot about it in the talk. Yeah. But some of the things could end up being trade secret and stuff where I can't roll back the full kimono and say, like, this is why we're going 30 frames per second on a single CPU thread, or like stuff like that.
Gotcha. And what I like about your talks is that they're different every time. This time Call of Duty. Last time you were talking about passion and obsession, and there's that transition and who you want to hire and how to get hired. Really cool.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I get bored easily. If I had to give the same talk again, it would be really boring for me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it'd be boring for the audience too if they're coming back. Like they want to see something new, something inspiring, something different. And the talk this year is really focusing on the models that industry needs. They're so much more intimidating than what I thought industry needed as a data scientist. And so I'll be going through some of these models. And thankfully they're becoming easier to build. So you don't need our company to build these models, but they're becoming these very complicated mixed data set models where YouTube advertising or cheating detection, or like there's just a lot of different data elements floating around. So the idea of you building an image classifier that is game changing for a company is kind of laughable today, because it's hard for me to think of an application where that would be that important. Like if I can predict, do you have a swimming pool from space for insurance? So we could build a deep net. It looks at an image of your house and it predicts swimming pool, no swimming pool. AI can do that. Deep learning can do that. But the problem is, what is that worth? Like literally, what is that worth? It's only one thing. What is it worth? And it's worth more than zero, but it's not worth $10 million for that. Like that model's not worth that much. And so when you get into these mixed models, the numbers get really big because they typically have a big impact on the business. Yeah.
And they probably have like a compounding effect as well on each other.
Exactly. So when you start combining these different data sets, the amount of lift, and we do those benchmarks internally. So we'll benchmark structured only to these models, and we'll see some significant lift differences. And that's actually what we get paid on. We get paid on the delta.
Yeah, makes sense. So that's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Add value, get paid on value. Ben, we're slowly approaching the end of this amazing third session that we're having now. what is your one piece of advice that you can give to our listeners who want to do things that you do, like who want to get into AI, do passion projects, create cool stuff, maybe start a company, do amazing things, like before, and then next time when you come here for the fourth one, then there'll be a new piece of advice. But until they hear from you next, or until they see your DataScienceGo, what's your one best piece of advice for them to succeed in their undertakings?
I think the best piece of advice I have for them is to take some risks. Don't work at the same company for very long. Like, I'm sorry for their employer, but try to work somewhere for a few years and go to a different place to challenge yourself. It's really important for you to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, because there's some things you're really good at and there's other things you're not. And the sooner you can figure that out, the better, because maybe you can find a co-founder to complement your weaknesses, or you can try to protect yourself from them. It's really important that you know what your weaknesses are. Because if you know what your weaknesses are, then you can protect yourself from some of these pitfalls. Maybe this will sound cheesy. You only get one career. And so knowing you only get one career, why would you want to go work for a company for 20 years doing something that wasn't, it didn't impact the industry. It wasn't something you can look back on. And the other thing I want to throw out there is a lot of times we think about our resume, but there is a startup resume. Like, as you go and, raise capital, sell a company, there are some life-changing opportunities that can come from that. Not just the money, but your momentum and your ability to tackle a new idea. So here's an idea that no one's tackling. They have autonomous mowers that you can buy today for $3,000. It's like a Roomba. If you have a backyard has an electric fence, this mower will come out and it'll just go around the yard, and it's very quiet. It mows every single night. It's really dumb, but it works and people pay for it. I think there should be a company today on the market that has an AI system on top of that mower that is killing weeds with lasers at night with AI. And the technology elements are very doable. Like, that is it's not science fiction. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million. You go do it. You give me $1 million. I'll go do it. Mm-hmm. But we're busy. So we're not doing that thing. And I would love for your listeners to eventually get to a point in the career where, if that sounds exciting, they will go do that thing. They'll just go do it. And so you kind of have to take risks. You have to tool up, challenge yourself, get to where you can do that. Because I feel like that project I just suggested, if that became your passion project, you have the resources to figure it out. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, just resources, being resourceful, like exactly. No, like I feel excited about that. As you said, I'm busy, but like if I have the time, no problem. Like, just give me $1 million, give me a year, we'll be done.
Yeah, but if I told you that project 10 years ago, you'd be like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't even know how I would tackle that project. But today, with a lot of experience, a lot of mistakes, a lot of things deployed, value added, all over the map, maturity, and then some reputation attached to that, you could pull that off. And how fun would that be if that was your passion project? Like, if you just went head down for the next 2 years and you changed the world where there's never another blade of crabgrass. Some people might think that sounds kind of stupid, but for me, I think that's amazing. If you did that, that is amazing. And I will buy that lawnmower from you for the $10,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because that's amazing. And I don't want, so I think it's important for people to plan their 5 and 10 year goals, and there's no reason why someone can't have that kind of in their sights or something similar.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to turn into like a company, right? Like, you can do it as a passion project, and through the recognition you get, Microsoft will come and give you an offer, or Google will want to take you and your team on board even before you incorporate. Like, they'll just see the potential, the value that you're bringing through passion, through what you love working on, and that's it. You have a new job all of a sudden. Yeah,
and another point I want to shoot out there is, I think sometimes people think that this is the time for AI startups. Like, this is the time to do AI, but you and I will live the rest of our lives with more AI opportunities than we can handle or think of. So there are tens of thousands of startups from now until we die. that are related to AI, that are niche applications like the mower example or something else. Huge impact, plenty of opportunity for your listeners. And I would definitely recommend going that route. It's not an easy route. You can probably tell from the look on our faces. It's not an easy
the beards.
it's not an easy route, but maybe the hope is a year from now, our paths cross in Costa Rica and we're surfing and throwing mangoes at coconuts for at least a week before we go do the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's still worth it, but yeah, anyway. And always happy to answer questions. And I know you are as well, based on your availability to people as they have these ideas or questions.
Yeah. Thanks, man. When are you going to write a book? We're waiting for a book from Ben Taylor.
When are you going to write a book?
I wrote a book last year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Your turn.
Oh, I need to read that book. Man.
I'll give you one at DataScienceGo. It's the purple one, Confident Data Skills. But when's yours coming up?
Well, 6 months ago, I would have said never, but then I ran into someone at Dublin Tech Summit where he was a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about the process, and I thought, man, that sounds terrible. Like,
it is terrible.
That sounds terrible to go through the work to write that book. And he said, no, it was actually really easy. I said, what do you mean it was? Yeah. So yeah, you're reacting too. Like, what do you mean? That's not easy. He said, no, every morning I woke up, I turned on my recorder and I spoke in the car, and I'd literally say chapter 1, and I just ramble. And then the next day, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And so he just had like hours and hours and hours of just whatever was in his head.
Yeah.
He gave it to a writer, and he paid them a lot of money, paid them $70,000 or whatever. It sounds like a lot of money. Maybe that's not. I guess you could pay someone hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they wrote him a New York Times bestseller and put his face on the book.
Fantastic. Yeah. Actually, it's the same way as I did it. I recorded everything on audio. Yeah. Like I'm not good at writing. I just recorded the sentences and the audio, what I wanted to convey. And then you will find a writing partner who helps you put it into text and you review it.
Yeah, so I didn't know you could do that. And that sounds...
welcome.
Yeah. So you're a step ahead.
Yeah. So the point was there to get your thoughts out there, to get a medium for people to read it. And, it's just one of the ways to do it. So you totally should.
Well, maybe if I control Microsoft really, really bad with the live Twitch feed, then I'll write a book about that, about how angry they were. But anyway, or if we do get a liquidation event, then I'll tell you all about it.
All right. Okay. Well, Ben, it was a pleasure having you on the show for the third time around. And thank you so much for everything you shared. And I look forward to seeing you at DataScienceGo.
Yeah. Yeah, you as well. Excited to go there. Month and a half away.
Fantastic. All right. See ya.
Okay. See ya.